Good morning, one of the members. Recording in progress.
Molweni, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Batikizela.
Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning, colleagues. Cynthia, are you there?
Yes, Chair.
Hello?
Good morning. Yes, Chair.
Do we have a quorum now?
Yes, Chair, we do have a quorum. We can start.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chair.
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning, the Auditor General and the team. Good morning, everyone else that is there. We just hope that our meeting and the technology is going to behave itself until the end of the meeting. Can we actually look at our agenda? The agenda is actually mainly two items. One is the presentation by the Auditor General's office. And the second item on the agenda is the adoption of the draft report on the oversight visit in KwaZulu-Natal. And colleagues, we are going to be pressed up for time because there is going to be a sitting, and the sitting is taking place at the ICC, I'm told. And therefore, we are going to try to push our agenda so that at least it doesn't go beyond 12 o'clock, because buses will start, to ferry members from Parliament precincts to the ICC or wherever the sitting is going to be taking place. So on that note, I would like to invite the secretary to actually, give us some apologies if there are any, and also after that, ask members to adopt the agenda so that we can actually then hand over to the Auditor General to make a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. The only apology is from Honorable Nana. He is on the platform, but he will be traveling, so he might lose connection somewhere somehow, but he will keep on connecting where possible. That's the only apology we have. And from the AGSA side, we have an apology from the leader of the delegation, Ms. Khabu Komape. She requests to leave immediately after the presentation, but the rest of the team will be on the platform. Thanks, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you. Okay.
You are muted, Chair.
Ale, yeah, can you hear me now? Ale,
yes,
am I
Chair,
audible?
we can hear you.
Okay. I was actually inviting honorable members to look at the agenda and propose adoption if there is no amendment. Honorable members.
Chair, I move
yeah.
for the adoption of the agenda.
Okay, there is a proposal for the adoption of the agenda. Any seconder?
Ndalani second.
Oh, thank you, Honorable Ndalani. I recognize the hand of Honorable Adams. Okay, it's now no longer there. Okay. Auditor General's office. May I please hand over to you and please ask you to introduce your team, and then you can then continue to make your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Good morning to you and the honorable members. Just introduction again. My name is Khabu Komape. I'm the business executive in the Auditor General. I am joined by Ms. Zamatlangum Dijwa. If she can just switch on the camera, please. Zamatlangum Dijwa is the Deputy Business Executive in the Auditor General of South Africa. I'm also having Mr. Vusi Maseko, who is the Senior Manager in the Auditor General of South Africa. He's directly responsible for the audit of this portfolio. Chair, that will be the three members from the Auditor General this morning. We are bringing to you a presentation in line with your request of the work that we've done on the APP of DALRAT and its entities. Chair, allow me just to indicate what we've covered in the presentation. We've done the proactive review of the APP for 25-26. So this is in line with the promise that AG Tsakani Maluleke has made to government that we would, as the AGSA, support government by reviewing the APP for the following year before implementation. So we would have looked at particularly the criteria on usefulness. You remember that the audit report of the Auditor General, so far as annual performance report and annual performance plan are concerned includes 2 criteria. So there is usefulness that mainly speaks to the work that we do on the annual performance plan, but there's also criteria on the reliability that speaks to the work that we do in relation to the annual performance report. At this stage, we've already completed the work on the annual performance plan. And in particular, as a AGSA, you would see we're not expressing an opinion. The work that we've done now is proactively because it actually sits in the work that we are going to be doing in the regularity audit of 25-26, which will be the next audit cycle. So we are primarily supporting yourselves and the portfolio in making sure that as a minimum, the APP is crafted properly such that the members of parliament, of this committee in particular, they can then ventilate the level of performance that they require. Allow me to indicate, Chair, that the work that we do in the usefulness is really covering whether the indicators that are embedded in this annual performance plan are well defined to eliminate an element of ambiguity so that accountability can be easily facilitated. But we also look at how the department and its entities have crafted the targets in particular in making sure that they meet the SMART criteria. Again, making sure that we eliminate an element of ambiguity such that the accountability processes can be at least more efficient. When you look at the work that we've done in DALRAT and its entities, you will also see, Chair, that there's an element of the medium-term development plan that we had brought in. And what we merely do in there is to make sure that the priorities of government that are crafted and highlighted in the medium-term development plan, they're incorporated in the APPs of the department and its entities. So to the extent that we believed that the department had left out some of the indicators and targets and priorities that government has set already in the medium-term development plan. We would then communicate, we would have communicated to the department. But maybe I must highlight that at this point in time, the department would have had an opportunity to factor in our inputs, and I do know that they had amended their annual performance plan at this stage to incorporate the changes that we've given to them, and we are grateful for that, that at least they could listen to us in terms of what we were asking. Chair, the one thing that the AGSA does not cover, and hence the APP should still go through the minister and as well as the portfolio committee, is a level of performance. So the AGSA does not dictate what is it that government must prioritize, obviously outside of what's sitting in the MTDP. So which means that the portfolio committee will still have a role to play in saying, is this prioritizing what we believe should be prioritized in terms of the current financial year that we are operating into? So that is the area that the AGSA does not necessarily dictate, it does not determine. Ours is to make sure that the APP is structured in line with the framework on performance planning, and also making sure that you eliminate any elements of ambiguity such that it's difficult to then hold the department and its administration accountable. So that's just an overview of the work that we've done. But like I indicated, the department had already effected in the changes that we indicated. But we still wanted to come to the portfolio committee just to share what is it that we've identified, because we are cognizant that the AGSA will not always be there to look at these APPs in future before they are tabled to Parliament. And therefore, it's important that the things that we are identifying, the department proactively deal with them in the coming financial years to make sure that there is not so much of a high dependency on the AGSA. Obviously, there's also a role that DPME is playing, monitoring and evaluation, and that speaks to the service delivery element. The AGSA does not take over that mandate, neither does it actually attempt to duplicate the role of that particular department. So ours is just to make sure that at least the criteria on usefulness is dealt with proactively, and we don't have to give you findings when we then do the audit that particular year, except the work that we will then do on the annual performance report. Chair, if you allow me to pause and hand over to Mr. Maseko to take us through the presentation, I will do so. Thank you so much. Chair.
Well, thank you, Madam. I will allow you to actually hand over to your colleague.
Thank you, Chair. Vusi, you may take over.
Thanks, BE. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, honorable members and colleagues on the line. Chair, today I think we're bringing you then the review that we performed on the APPs of the Department, Land Reform and Rural Development and its entities. On the first slide, Chair, on the second slide, we just listed our mission and vision as a AGSA. We've got a constitutional mandate as a supreme institution of South Africa. So we exist to assist and strengthening the country's democracy by enabling, by giving the committee the information that it needs to be able then to hold those who are in public office account. And we also strive to be recognized by all our stakeholders in enhancing the public sector accountability. I think on the next slide, Chair, we also have our accountability ecosystem. So this slide just depict and show that everybody else in this slide and in the ecosystem have the role to play to make sure that the department achieve its objective in terms of what is set in terms of their mandate. So then the officials, then as you can see there on the left corner, they also need to do in terms of what their responsibilities been assigned to, and also the oversight structures also that needs to play their role in making sure that then they oversee the work that the department has done. And also we've got AGSA in the middle. I think our role, Chair, is also to assist and make sure that the governance that needs to happen, it does happen. So, Chair, we also provide the insight in terms of what we've gained through our audits, in terms of the what we share that with the committees on also with management. And we also try to influence them in the direction where that improves also the accountabilities. But where we could not necessarily gain that influence, Chair, we've also got a lack of enforcement through our the PA Act that give us that right just to enforce, to make sure that the improvement that is needed in the ecosystem, then we can see that. Then on the next slide, Chair, we also just listed the government planning cycle in terms of how then the APPs are informed. As you can see there, we listed the MTDP. The MTDP is a document that lists the priorities that the national government have set, including the MTDP. So the MTDP is a document that also outlines the priorities for the next 5 years, what we want to achieve. So I think as the PE indicated that these are the documents that we also use just to make sure that whatever the entities are including in the APP, the national priorities are also taken into account. And we also have got a strategic plan, because the strategic plan is a document that the entity set for itself, looking for the period of the 5 years, the term of the administration. So we've reviewed that together with the APP to make sure that those are aligned, to make sure that at least then whatever that is sitting on the strategic plan, it's also make its way on the APP for it to be implemented and tracked for that period of 5 years. And then we've also got a quarterly report, which currently we will be doing this exercise next year, where we looked at the quarterly achievement then of the entity and the department to say, based on what they've outlined in their APP, are they achieving in terms of the quarterly? And that will also make the annual report, which will also review and then give an opinion in terms of the findings that we would have probably noted on that. On the next slide, Chair, we just also give the objectives in terms of what the exercise that we performed is aimed at. So the exercise just aiming is to give the early warnings then into the department in terms of the usefulness of the indicators and targets that they've included on their APPs. This is just to give to make sure that the indicators are clear and everybody else knows exactly what they need to do, so there's no ambiguity in that exercise. So we review the usefulness of those indicators. So we make sure that the targets and indicator they meet the SMART principle criteria in terms of being specific, measurable, achievable, and relevance, and they're also being time bound in terms of how long then particular indicator should be implemented. So then there's 2 documents that we use in terms of reviewing that, is the MPPI and then also the revised framework for strategic plan and also for the annual performance. Those documents are issued by Treasury. What we don't necessarily do now, Chair, which we'll be doing next year, and then when we audit the actual achievement now, will be done by the department. So we don't necessarily do a detailed review in terms of the supporting documents, because that will be done then when we audit the annual performance plan, when a report, when it's submitted for audit. Basically, Chair, the smart target, we mean that the target must be specific, and it means the nature and the level of performance should be clearly identifiable. So it should be clear that if I say I'm gonna build a number of infrastructure, that should be clear so that everybody else knows exactly what I've been doing. So the target needs to be measurable. So we should be able then to measure the performance of that. If then I said I'm gonna construct 5 schools, then at the end of the period, did I construct 5 schools? And that should be clear to everybody else. Also, the target must be achievable. So it mustn't be a super, unrealistic target. So we also make sure that the targets are realistic when we looked at in terms of the usefulness, and also relevant that the target must also be linked to the mandates of the department or the entities. And then the last one is the time bound. So what period have you set for yourself then to achieve this particular target that you set for yourself? So Chair, we also look at the indicators, the good performance indicators, how that it should read. So on the slide, Chair, I just highlighted the few criteria that we also use just to make sure that the indicator is aligned. So first one, the indicator must be reliable, and then also must be verifiable. So it must be easy for us then and the systems and processes that produce that information. So we should be in a position then to verify that. And the indicator must be appropriate and also must be well defined. So there must not be any ambiguity then on that indicator. And also must be cost effective. So by that, we mean that we shouldn't necessarily spend a lot of money to achieve maybe one item. So we also measure the terms of the cost that is associated with a particular indicator to give that assurance whether the indicator is going to be cost effective for us then to be able to achieve that particular indicator. And then, as I indicated, relevance, it must also be linked back then to the mandates of the department. I think then in terms of the portfolio, Chair, on this slide, I also listed the entities that are falling under the department that we've looked at. So these are the entities that follow under the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development. On the next slide, I just also highlighted in terms of, these are the APPs that we've looked at, which is going to be it was the department and then the OVG and the ITB, and deeds and ALA and commission, Chair, they don't necessarily have their separate annual performance plan because their indicators are included. Deeds are included in the department as well. I think they are sitting under program 4. And also the ALA, some of these indicators are also included under program 2, and commission are also included in terms of program 3, in terms of the restrictions. Their indicators are there. Chair, you don't see IT there in Ngonyama Trust. We only have the Ngonyama Trust board also because the trust, the Act does not require them then to prepare the performance plan. So that's why we don't have it here on the slide. So on the red, Chair, these are the areas where we also highlight, we noted the findings, or I can say the notes that we noted in terms of the program as we listed there, in terms of the reds as we listed on the slides. On the next slide, Chair, we also I'll start with the department, the APP. So on the left, we also highlighted the findings that we've noted in terms of the indicators that were impacted by the findings that we've noted. So I think on the first one, the percentage of increase of the system modernization and digitalization. So this is the indicator that was included in the strategic plan of the department. But here, when we looked at the TID, the indicator technical description in terms of what the department needs to achieve here, the department did not necessarily outline or give us provide the systems that they want to improve, because now I think they are moving into it, trying to digitalize their environment. But then on the APP, also when you look at the TID, they did not necessarily indicate to say what are the systems that they're going to be trying to improve in the current year, which that's one of the issues that we also noted. But also we also noted that in their APP, on their strategic plan, they included a baseline of 18% in terms of what they want to achieve. But then when we look at the target was set at 3% for every year. But then when we look at that 3%, when you add the 3% for the next 5 years, that they don't necessarily come to 18. So then I think that's what we also indicated to say, but you're also planning below your baseline, and then you, even if you want to achieve that 18 after 5 years, you will not achieve because your target is below what you need to, what you require to then to achieve. Then on the second indicator was also the number of monitoring reports NSDF developed. So Chair, here what we also outlined, I think is similar to the second indicator, which is the 4.1.1. We noted that the department was planning to achieve, I can say achieve reports at the end of the period. But I think what is important, what we noted for these two indicators, that the department did not necessarily then describe the level of performance that will be required for them to be able then to prepare these reports and then indicate the achievement. Because I think here we also require that you need to include the level of performance that will be able then to be measured, because we're not necessarily measuring a drafting of reports, because that does not necessarily relate to the service deliveries. But what we needed that the department then describe the activities that they will go through in terms of them achieving or monitoring the NSDF implementation or the development. So that was not necessarily then outlined in the APP, because when that times of the report needs to be drafted, anything can be included in the report as long as at the end of the day it's the report. But then that for us then means that now we will not necessarily be able then to measure to say, okay, this is what we have planned beginning April, and then this is what you've achieved, if you're not necessarily then aligning the required level of performance for the particular indicator. And then I think on the last one, Chair, was also the report on the NARISEC. So this is the indicator that talks to the NARISEC. So in terms of linking the people that we train into job opportunities. So on the first, this indicator was there in the previous years, but then when we noted on the current APP, the department removed that particular indicator. Also knowing, Chair, that one of the requirements on the priorities on the MTDP is the creation of job, but we've heard that the department then is moving away from this particular indicator, which then we've highlighted to say, but why then removing this important indicator if then we need to be creating jobs? I think, Chair, in terms of the recourse, what we've noted that was that then in terms of now drafting, and because these are the only material findings that we have reporting, but there's other cosmetic findings that we've noted in terms of the spelling and the wording that we've also highlighted in terms of the department to attend. But I think in terms of the recourse, we noted that probably then there was no thorough process that before the APP is submitted, either to us or to the other structures of the government in terms of the reviewing the APP. That was not necessarily done in-house. So then we thought maybe the people that needed to do these things, they lacked the technicalities that's required for them to be able then to make sure that these documents becomes well in the indicators and targets are properly set, and then the indicators are well defined. Then, Chair, that we know that in terms of the impact, then having indicators that are not very clear, at the end of the day, that it becomes very difficult then to measure the performance, and also making sure that whatever that they've planned at the beginning of the year is what they're achieving. And also that allows the misrepresentation in some case where the evidence then is not even clear in terms of what was needed to be done. It's very important that indicator needs to be clear in terms of the definition to make sure that whatever performance that the department will be reporting at the end of the year, as an auditor, I'm able then to verify and confirm to say, yes, indeed, this is what the department has done. I think, Chair, in terms of the recommendation, what we've recommended is that the department needed to go back and then relook at the APP and make sure that the issues that we've raised are being effected, and also make sure that the indicators also meet the SMART principle criteria, making sure that the indicators, they are well defined, then they are easily verifiable. And we also noted that at least then if they can also improve the internal processes in terms of making sure that the quality that the APPs and strategic plan needs to achieve is done. That needs to be created to make sure that at least then there is that process that the APP, before it gets submitted to other structures, it must be thoroughly verified and then be read, make sure that all these cosmetic errors are fixed. In terms of the next slide, Chair, we're also trying to list the MTDP and the priorities that the MTDP is bringing. As I indicated, in terms of the focus, the strategy focus, number one, driving the inclusive growth and job creation, and also reducing poverty and tackle the high cost of living, and also building an ethical and development state. So we try to link, Chair, on the second slide, just to try and see then in terms of how then the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development then contributes in terms of these priorities. As we know that the department's mandate is to make sure that there's an expansion in terms of equitable land and ownership, and also strengthening the land administration, and also in terms of the post-settlement support, the support that they give then to farmers, then to be able then at least then to commercialize some of these farms, to make sure that in terms of food safety, we eliminate the shortage in terms of food. And then I think the second one, Chair, was also the rural development, that focusing on the rural infrastructure, because there is also another element in terms of the department that at least then try to improve some of the infrastructure in the rural areas, and also provide support to the small farmers and the cooperative in terms of expansion, and also integrate the spatial planning in terms of that. So in terms of priority two, also accelerate the equitable land distribution, and also post and settlement support, as I indicated. So these are we're trying to just make sure that at least in terms of the MDTP, the department contributes in terms of these priorities that have been set. So then, Chair, what we also did was to look at the MTDP document and because I think there's the indicators and targets that the document set for the particular departments. So then when we looked at the land reform and rural development and their contribution in those priorities, so we noted that there were a few indicators that the department did not necessarily take into account when they submitted their APP to us. So if you look at what we've raised there, was that you see that there were a few indicators where the two of them where the department was a lead as a lead department in terms of implementation of those priorities, that they were not necessarily then included on the APP, which then we highlighted there on the slides. Then on the second one was also three indicators that we also noted that the department did not include where they are a support department, because here they also needed to outline to say how then they're going to support the lead department in terms of achieving their mandate. So they needed to outline and then make sure that they also list their contribution, and then in terms of these indicators. We also noted that there are other indicators where all entities in government, they needed to plan for them. But then the last three, the indicators were not necessarily then included in that APP. I think that in terms of the root cause, what we noted that maybe we thought that there was not necessarily a thorough or vigorous process, as I indicated, to say there was no review of the APP to make sure that some of these things that we are highlighting are included in the APP, because these are the priorities that national government have set that we want to see ourselves in the next 5 years and achieving. So then in terms of recommendation, we also thought maybe if then there was that process where the APP goes through, and including the strategy plan in terms of the review, to make sure that these documents are specifically the priorities that have been set, we are also planning towards in terms of achieving those. So that process, we felt that it's probably then needs some improvement then in the department. Knowing that also the department, they are heading for a split, that's because it becomes very important then to make sure that at least then we don't necessarily miss this critical part of making sure that the APP is aligning then to this strategic document. So there could be other documents that also the department needed to make sure, in terms of their mandates, what they're required to achieve in ensuring that at least then they strive to achieving their mandates. And I think, Chair, we also looked at the next one, it was OVG. the Valuer-General also that assists then the department with the valuations of farmers or the land that the department is acquiring. So in terms of their APP chair, what we've noted, I think on program 1, they've got an indicator there that was talking to the percentage of corruption and fraud prevention and mechanism, so what they wanted to implement. But then when we looked at the TID, in terms of what mechanism they want to implement, that was not necessarily described, and to make sure that at least then these are the mechanism that they want to implement, so that at the end of the periods we are able then to go back and see what they've implemented, and that was not necessarily described. But we further went to their fraud prevention plan, because we thought maybe the fraud prevention plan will also highlight those mechanisms that they need to implement, but that was also not necessarily listed there. So then that will make this indicator not measurable at the end of the period, Chair, because in terms of the performance information, you need to outline your performance upfront, then so that then I'm able then to go back and measure you to say, this is what you've set for yourself, and then this is what you've worked towards. So it shouldn't be just reporting what I've done, anything that I've done at the end of the period, because that's not necessarily a predetermined objective. Then in terms of the program 2, these are the programs that also deals with the actual valuation. We also here, Chair, I think there were a few issues that we've noted then with the number of indicators that they've also outlined themselves there. So, Chair, they've got 3 types of valuation that OVG performs. I think on the first one, they've got current valuation, where the valuation that, and then they also got another one they called market valuation, and they also call another one called historical valuation. So then in terms of this valuation, Chair, in terms of dates or the number of dates it takes for them to do the valuation are not necessarily the same. So the current usually will take longer, because that will require engaging also the owner of the farm to be able then to get that evidence and review the documents, or maybe they do the inspection. So that valuation usually will take longer, but the other 2 valuation will take probably then less in terms of timing, in terms of now 10 days or 5 days then to be able then to complete that valuation. But then what we noted there was that on that indicator, they've included all them. They have an indicator called the average number of working days taken to issue the final valuation. But we thought that, Chair, that does not necessarily describe correctly, because if other valuations are taking longer, others are taking short for you to do the work, it kind of like distorted then the performance. So you should be able then to have indicators that would outline for the current valuation, then so that then we can measure that one to say whether are you completing them within the reasonable time that is taken. So if you clump everything together, it kind of like and then miss the performance there. So then some of the indicators that we also noted there, Chair, was that they've got other valuation, I can say indicator where they wanted to include the performance of the previous year in the current year, meaning that there is other ones where if then, for example, if our current valuation takes 50 days to complete, where they do not necessarily have enough days for them to complete, then to report that in the following year, which is also that not allowed. But Chair, what we also noted and then also advised them in terms of now also engaging the department, because they also depend on the department to submit the valuation request on time in order for them then to be able then to complete the valuation on time, and then give the feedback then to the department to be able then to measure themselves in terms of performance that they've made. But I think then they issued I can say a plea to say, but some of these things are not in our control, because now the department will come towards the end of the year, and especially like in March, and because on the other side, maybe they also want to try to achieve their target and give us the valuations. So that also puts them under pressure. But what we also engaged was that at least then if they engage with the department to make sure that the department, the request when they come evenly throughout the year, just to make sure that at least then also they don't necessarily have a lot of work that towards end of the year, so that the indicators are spread, the requests are spread throughout the year, just to make sure that to make their also life easier and able then to finish these valuations on time. I think, Chair, that's we also noted then on program 2. Then on program 3, Chair, we also there the OVG did not necessarily also describe the level of performance for what they've required for those indicators there. So on the first one, Chair, they just said they want to retain the critical skills, but also without necessarily also defining what critical skills they want to retain. So we thought maybe that will also make it difficult for us then to measure at the end. And also another one was also the unqualified. We also then they needed to describe which year are they referring to in terms of which year they're referring to in terms of which they want to achieve unqualified audit. I think also the last one, it was the optimal enterprise in terms of the actual maturity level. Also there, they did not also describe in terms of what they want to achieve in terms of the IT maturity at the end of the period. So they needed to describe, I think they've got level 1 to 5. So they needed to describe to say we want to be at level 3 at the end of the year in terms of now improving their systems and make sure that their things are digitalized. So that was not necessarily clearly then described. And in terms of the root cause, what we also noted there was, because we also noted the lack of review of the APP before that is given to us. I think we also noted a lot of minor issues or I think wording and spelling mistakes that on the APP that they've already submitted to us to say, but this process needed to be somebody else then to review the APP to make sure that it in terms of quality, it is of good quality and the indicators and targets are consistent then with what you are sitting on the APP. Because Chair, that in terms of impact, if then the indicators and targets are not clear enough, that also have the impact in terms of performance because it becomes easy for management then to report at the end and then report achieve. But then in terms of the impact of those, what they've achieved, we could not necessarily be measuring that because if then the indicators are not clear and well defined. We also, what we requested also in terms of recommendation was to also ask them to go back and in terms of the issues that we've noted and factor that into their APP as well and make sure also they create a process where they're able then to make sure that in terms of quality, the APP goes through that process and strategic plan just to make sure that some of these errors that we picked up are corrected then before then it's being submitted and then to us. So that's the process that we also highlighted to them that they need to make sure that the APP goes through that vigorous process in terms of a review just to make sure that it's become clear at the end of the day. What we also looked at, the APP for Ingonyama Trust Board, what they've also submitted to us. So there we just on the one issue that we also noted on the APP, this indicator that talks to the signed lease agreement within 30 days. So that tier indicator did not necessarily have also TID. The TID is a section of the APP that also explain in terms of what process then the Ngonyama Trust will go through to try and achieve. So it kind of like describe the process that to make sure that the evidence or the process is consistent in terms of now collecting the information that needs to be submitted in terms of measuring the achievement. That they also did not necessarily have on their APP. So I think it was just an oversight that they've missed that. And we also thought that, Chair, when we looked at the type of misstatements that we noted also there, we felt like there was also not a quality assurance processes that the APP needed to go through just to make sure that the whatever mistakes that they would have been made by the official who are preparing the APP get corrected. And because that if then also not necessarily done, then that also have a direct impact then in terms of at the end of the period to say how then that indicators get measured. And it could be easily also misrepresented. Then in terms of recommendation, we also just highlighted what they need to be improving in terms of that process. I think also making sure that they include that TID for that particular indicator and describe the processes that they will go through then in terms of achieving that. And also make sure that at least then each indicator, they also develop the standard operating procedure to be able then to understand the process that even though if some of the official leave, then they're able then somebody else then to be able to continue with that monitoring or or implementation of that indicator. I think, Chair, and then on the last slide, we had recommendations for the minister and also for the management in terms of what we've required for them to be able then to do in terms of making sure that the APPs are in terms of usefulness, they meet the criteria. And then what we recommend, and then in terms of to the committee chairs, that I think regular updates will be will assist then the committee to check whether in terms of the improvement, in terms of the planning process of the department, to see the actions that they've implemented, then to try at least then next year we don't necessarily sit then with a similar finding, and also encourage the accountability by ensuring that the performance indicators are not only aligned to the national priorities, but also enable transparency in terms of monitoring the real outcome, and that will have the impact in terms of the service deliveries. Chair, I think that's the last slide in terms of the presentation. I'll thank you and then end it here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, AG's office. Back to you, Khaba.
Thank you so much. I think you would have picked up as Vus was presenting the emphasis we are putting on the government priorities. And as I indicated, Chair, I think one of the key recommendations that we're really putting through to the portfolio committee is that now that we had worked with the department to enable them to have a readable and a workable APP, it will be important that then the portfolio committee determines whether the focus of the department is what would facilitate the service delivery at the level that you want to see it, which would mean that it will be important that then you, as a portfolio committee, as you're engaging the department and its entities, you're comfortable that they are prioritizing the right areas and they're prioritizing the right activities as well, because that element is an element that then remain crucial for service delivery for the financial year 25-26. And that will be what the AGSA, as I indicated, not dictating in anyhow. Thank you, Chair. I'll leave it here.
Well, thanks a lot, Madam. Honorable members, I will allow time for honorable members to make reflections and ask clarity-seeking questions, make comments on the presentation that actually has been made by the AG. Over to you, honorable members. Can I actually then recognize hands? I recognize the hand of Honorable Mthethwa, Honorable Adams,
And Matikizela.
Honorable Matikizela. Who else is there? Honorable Ndalane. Who else?
Honorable Adams, Chair.
Yes, I have noted Honorable Adams.
Honorable Matthias, Honorable Chair.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Matthias. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Hello? Somebody was saying something. Honorable Mkhaga? Okay, in that particular order, Honorable Mthethwa, let's kickstart with your contribution.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Greetings to the delegation from the Auditor-General, and greetings to members of the Portfolio Committee and fellow officials. Mine is I'm reviewing the template that you are using as Auditor General to measure the performance of the department in their function or job description or their annual plans that they put up for themselves. There is one thing that is missing after we have done all that which we have planned as a department and as Auditor General or evaluating their performance, the quality of service that the receiver of the service of the department is getting. The situation is not changing to our liking, especially us who are supposed to be getting the service. So I'm wondering, how can we sneak in a tool that will evaluate both the department and your intervention as Auditor General, but getting it from the receiver of the service? Because you are using a template as Auditor General against which you are checking the annual plans of the department, and the department is giving you their own plans of what they are projecting to do within their financial year. But between what they are planning to do and what you are checking them against, it's more of you are on the receiving end of what they gave you. And at the same time, we, the recipient of the service, we are also on the receiving end of what they told you and us that this is what they are going to do. Yet you are still having a gray area out there of focus where we would have loved that focus and attention be paid on into, but that element, the manner in which the department collects and does their plan, I wonder at which point can we also give an input before it is a final word? Because if we are not, we are just coming here to rubber stamp what they said against what you are checking them against using your own template. Another point, I don't see from you, Auditor General, something that is like early warning signs, and then another term to detect any form of malpractice in terms of financial expenditure versus preventative measures, meaning, are you able to take the department into saying, this is what we have put in place to prevent you from even attempting to commit any thing untowards, so that we don't always come and say there was corruption, there was a wrongdoing, there was irregular expenditure, there was a fruitless expenditure, because these terms are there, but we always experience them, whether fruitless expenditure and all of that, they do it and knowingly that there will be no consequences. And I don't see you being an enforcer of what you are preventing departments to do in terms of them mishandling the funds. Every time, if there is an error, that error must be corrected by another agency of government, which will then take forever if it is not within your means for you to be able to correct those things. We need to come up with preventative measures. And then the value for money is also very important on our side. So if we can be granted with that, otherwise we are limited on what we can tell you, whether they're spending more or spending less. But all I know is that our people are not getting the quality service at the end of the day. And I don't know whom do we cry to, because you are saying you are just evaluating what they gave you. Anything outside that is something that you must take up with the department. But we are also seeking a way that you must come and help us just to prevent some of these malpractices. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mteto. Honorable Adams.
Good morning, Chairperson.
Good morning, Madam.
Thank you for the opportunity. Good morning to all on the platform, to the staff of the portfolio committee, the presenters, the department, and also to yourself, Chair. Chair, I just have, may I also thank them for the presentation. I just have a few questions. I will start with my first one on page 10 of the presentation. The AG highlighted that the Ingonyama Trust is not required to prepare and submit a performance report against predetermination objectives, as it falls outside the scope of the PFMA, and the Ingonyama Trust Act does not weaken accountability by the trust or create an institutional void in terms of good governance. What is the remedy? In the opinion of the AG, is the internal audit function properly operationalized and supported within the department in order to detect weakness before the action audit process? And my last question, Chairperson, on slide 17 of the presentation refers to incorrect use of cumulative values, which compromises the reliability, validity, and usefulness of the performance indicators. How widespread is the problem? Is there capacity to improve the internal review against quality standards to be more robust and effective? The last one, Chair, is the AG satisfied with the control measures within the board and also the Office of the Valuer General to detect, prevent, and undercover fraud and corruption? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Adams. Honorable Matikizela.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the team from the AG. Chair, I think most of the issues that the AG is raising here are issues related to the power and very serious conversation between the church and the department. Particularly, it's concerning for me that there's no link between what.
Sorry, Honorable Matikizela. You are not very clearly audible. I'm not too sure whether it's on my side only. I would, request that you probably speak closer to the mic. I don't know if that is the.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are quite audible now.
No, thank you, Chair. I was saying that most of the issues that AG raised are issues really that will require this committee to have a serious discussion with the department. For me, what is most concerning is the fact that there's no link between the APP and the strategic objectives of this department. So I'm not going to waste into time by asking questions that we should be really discussing with the department, but maybe 3 quick points. I want to align with what Member Mpeto said. I think the AG must be very strong in the portfolio of evidence, because we would find that there are departments, for example, the municipalities where they get clean audits, but you find that people are not getting water. So I think there must be an alignment between service delivery outcome and also the audit general outcome. But I do want to maybe point of clarity, AG, because I believe that the horse has bolted in terms of this APP, because they're telling that the APP of the financial year that has started already. So at what point do we have an opportunity with the department perhaps to correct some of the issues that you have raised here? is it during the medium-term budget policy statement in preparation for next year? So that's just my question. And lastly, of course, I think the fact that the department is splitting vis-a-vis the priorities of this department, again, an issue that we've raised before. Because I think if we had our strategic session early with the department so that we can determine, one, the mandate of this department, and secondly, the priorities of this department in line with the strategic objective of this administration. I think if we had that engagement sooner, it would have been better. But clearly, I mean, from what the AG has presented, we really have to have a serious discussion so that all these issues are really corrected, because we cannot have a situation where the department has so many glaring gaps. So that is my submission.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Matiazele. I take it that you are done.
Yes, I've concluded, Chair.
Oh, thank you, thank you. May I recognize the hand of the Honorable Ndalane?
Thanks, Honorable Chair, and good morning. Let me also take this opportunity to welcome the presentation made by the AG. Honorable Chairperson, I think in page 15, reflect on omission of medium-term development plans indicators where the department has a direct leading role. And my question is that how were these performance plans validated and approved with such omissions? The second one is that what are the risks of this misalignment of indicators of the overall development objective of the government, of this government? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Ndalane. Honorable Matiase? Is Honorable Matiase still on the platform?
Yes, yes, Honorable Chair.
Yes.
Greetings to your good self, Honorable Chair, and fellow members.
Good morning, Honorable Matias.
Thank you so much, Honorable Chair. Let me also join my colleagues in welcoming the report from the Office of the Auditor-General. May I also quickly remark that, Honorable Chair, and in doing so join my colleague, Honorable Adams, to express my really rejection on the Office of the Auditor-General not to express an opinion on the Ngonyama Trust, 1, 2, on the ALA, and as well on the another trading entity of the department that deals with can we go to that slide, Honorable Chair? It really doesn't help that the Auditor General, there's this slide, and the next slide that deals with, I think you can scroll upward, the deeds as well as ALA. The deeds, deeds registration trading account and the agricultural land holding account on one hand, and Ngonyama Trust on the other. Let me first say this in respect of the Ngonyama Trust. The department in 2017 received a legal opinion from state attorneys. And members will recall what that legal opinion says in respect of the role of the department, especially that of the minister, over the Ngonyama Trust. And one of the legal opinion or extract from that is that there are two regulations that the minister and the department may want to consider to hold the Ngonyama Trust financials management to account. One is administrative regulations and financial regulations. And that the financial regulations give effect, as the name of that financial regulations suggest, to certain aspects of public finance. It regulates these finances and transactions consistent with the Public Finance Management Act. Unless if the Office of the Auditor General is not aware of this, for it not to exercise its auditorial or functions of the Office of the Auditor General on the books and the finances of the Ngonyama Trust. It really baffles the mind. So it makes no sense in literally sense. In common sense, doesn't make sense at all. That Ngonyama Trust has not been submitted or has not submitted itself and its books before the Office of the Auditor General. Perhaps the Office of the Auditor General must give us an explanation in relation to that. And it also makes no sense, Honorable Chair, that the trading entities, they are trading entities because they generate revenue as opposed to non-trading entities. They generate revenue, and that revenue at the end of the day get expanded or utilized through various programs of the department. And yet, these trading entities have not been subjected to audit. I would also like to know why the Office of the Auditor General arrived at this regrettable and regressive decision. But lastly, as Honorable Matikizela has said, it is disappointing that there are no clear monitoring of the department's financial performance in respect of their set objectives. And as a result of that, and this is also what Honorable Mthethwa said earlier, defeats the whole exercise of trying to see where the department has achieved its set goals and where it has failed, and what intervening measures must be taken to correct that, Honorable Chair. I think those are the few views and questions I wanted to put across. Thank you so much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Matiase. Thank you so much. Honorable Mkhakha.
Thanks, Honorable Chair.
Well, you are free to actually shut down your video, your camera.
Yeah. No, Chair. Good morning, honorable members, Chairperson, and the AG office, and everybody in the platform. I don't have to rehash what honorable members have raised. This interaction for me presupposes that we would have gone to our own strat plan, as we have taken a decision a long time ago, so that we are able to measure the outcome of our own strat plan with what AG is recommending to this portfolio committee. And I'm sure by the time we go to our strat plan, maybe we would seek the services of the AG so that it become part of our session, so that we clarify ourselves on a lot of issues. Indicators vis-a-vis targets. There's always a confusion, and I could detect today that the confusion is caused by the fact that their indicators, according to the presenter, are not easily verifiable, and therefore they tend to overlap and become indicators, sometimes encroaches the target space, and the confusion is created in that process. That has always been my confusion, to differentiate between succinctly indicators and targets, because many a times targets are not met, but indicators will go to up to 98% indicators, but targets are not met. For me, the two does not match in terms of their correlation. Now we are introducing a new concept of technical indicators. Maybe I need a clarity exactly what is it. Technical indicators, maybe something big, it's a clarity. Secondly, this issue of performance vis-a-vis achievement is always a problem, because you are expecting a department to perform, but there's nothing on the ground. The land transfer is so slow, and yet they purport to be performing as a department, and that balance does not augur well with some of us, because the priorities of the department supposed to be focusing on the mandate of the department. And if the mandate is not met, surely you won't be expecting some achievements many a times. So the question of measuring the performance vis-a-vis achievement is always a lukewarm approach, and perhaps the AG may clarify. I was perusing the document to exactly whether I can get assistance, and I think because they are here, they must just assist us around this question. Because my expectation is that if you performed when it comes to land restitution, or land transfer, we're expecting that our people must get the land. You can't claim to be performed and spend monies, and yet our people didn't get the land. So I'm saying that's the process. That's the process that is always confusing, and maybe this clarity might help us. Service delivered and the impact. Surely it's one thing that is confronting politicians, because our people on the ground will be expecting that they get what is expected of them in terms of their mandate, and on the other side, the department would say we've delivered this much of hectares, and those hectares does not translate into tangible outcomes, and that's a weakness. But it's very difficult to measure the productivity as far as that area is concerned. It's very difficult, and perhaps UAG's office might simplify for us. The last one, Chair, is the question of the Auditor-General. It's very difficult to measure the effectiveness of this office. And I hear what the presenter is saying, but still couldn't clarify for me as to what's the best method of monitoring the progress of as done by this office. Was if submissions are made late to evaluate general office, and because of the department's weaknesses, and how then do you begin to measure the effectiveness of this office, and particularly when it comes to costing processes, because the office that in fact is supposed to be protecting the public base of government, but it's very difficult to monitor that costing process as they sell or exchange or negotiate land with landowners or farmers, and evaluate the land, and they decide on a price, and that's why I would agree with the honorable member who says, have you interacted with their finances in terms of audit, or it's an exclusive process outside this process we're dealing with now? But my expectation was to tell us exactly how financial management has been handled. There are a lot of irregularities in some entities. For instance, a question of the ITB. We've been exposed to irregularities, but I couldn't capture exactly to the point. It might be my own weakness on this side. Those are the few things, Chair, that I would want to lift at a glance, as far as the presentation is concerned. And I know that it might not be a comprehensive presentation, but surely there are key issues that we thought are of interest to us as portfolio committee. Thanks, Chair.
Well, thank you, honorable members. I don't see any other hand up. I would then invite the Auditor General's office to actually.
Chairperson, I have raised my hand, although a bit late, but I have raised my hand, and it's still up. So,
Honorable Lucas, Honorable Matigizela, is this an historical hand, or is it another indication of a second bite?
Sorry, Chair, it's a legacy hand.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Honorable Lucas.
thank you, Chair. Chairperson, I think I am mostly covered by the issues that the members have raised, but I decided just to ask a general question to the Auditor General in terms of particularly issues that have been raised under the Valuer General, but also I read through some of the other issues where particularly the issue of the APPs and specifically performance not being in sync, and also the fact that the Auditor General is actually recommending us to actually have a more intensive oversight over the performance of the specific department and the entities. So there is an issue that I think I just want to ask whether kind of assessment or what the kind of findings in terms of it seems spending not necessarily in sync with predetermined objectives, or that there is the reliability of the kind of information that is going into the APP. How satisfied is the Auditor General that the government is getting value for money? Because we, like some of the members said, we have observed on the ground the slow progress with regard to, say, issues of land restitution, or some of the issues, some of the programs that are under some of the entities, that there is not necessarily the kind of progress that you would have expected by this time. So generally, in their own opinion, how reliable is the information that we are receiving from the departments, and do they feel that we are getting value for money in terms of the kind of resources that are being allocated to the specific actions? It's the only question that I will ask, because like I said, on most of the issues we have been covered. Thank you very much, Chair.
Well, thank you, Honorable Lucas. I would like to invite the Auditor General's office to actually make responses to the questions and actually observations that have actually been made by honorable members. Over to you, AG's office.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much, honorable members. Chair, maybe let me start by saying this. What you are having in front of you today, it is not a reflection of the performance reporting, neither you are sitting with the financial feedback. So we are not yet at the stage of providing the audit outcomes based on the Public Finance Management Act, which is the spending, as well as the performance report. What you are having in front of you is a review, it's a feedback of the review of the annual performance plan that the department is yet to deal with, or that's maybe started in April. So when we come to you during the BRRR process, that is the October process, that's where we speak to the performance and the feedback on financial management and financial reporting of the department. So the questions that relates to reliability of the performance reporting, the achievements and the likes, they are not embedded in this presentation. That is not part of the work that the AGSA would have completed at this point in time. What you are having right now, it is a proactive feedback merely on the annual performance plan. You remember that the annual performance report only gets submitted to the AGSA together with the annual financial statements that embed the financial spending and the patterns, whether you have the wastages or not. It gets submitted to the AGSA on the 31st of May each year. And the Auditor General issued the audit report on the 31st of July to the department. And pass the audit report, the department then tables to Parliament on the 30th of September. Only then Parliament or this committee have an indulgence with the annual performance report and the feedback of the Auditor General as part of the BRRR. That's not what we are having today. So which means that the conversation around the evidence that supports performance is not what we are dealing with, right? The members are right in saying when the AGSA look at the annual performance report, this is where the department claim that they had performed in certain areas. There we definitely look at evidence. Our conclusion would speak to what would have transpired. And in many instances, we visited the project if there is a need for us to go out, especially if they claim to have done some work in the communities. That includes infrastructure projects. So we do go there. So what I just wanted to separate, Chair, so that we clear that the work of the Auditor General on the evaluation of financial management and financial reporting and performance management of the department is not part of the conversation today. It cannot be. It can only come through once the audit gets completed. What you had asked us to bring is the review of the annual performance plan. And the reason why as the AGSA, we are making this presentation, we understand that this is going to form a preamble or a foundation on which the committee is going to be requiring the department to then provide feedback on a quarterly basis. Right. So what you are sitting with is what they are planning in their documents, in their annual performance plan. Then they will be accounting to the committee on a quarterly basis. Now, with that said, I think there was a question around the AG did not form an opinion on the trading entities on ALA, right? And deeds. There is no AGSA input, opinion, Chair, in terms of the audit report, as I indicated. But we've evaluated the planning indicators and targets of both DEETS and ALA. What Mr. Maseko was highlighting is a reminder to the committee that both DEETS and ALA do not have their separate annual performance plan. Their indicators and targets and their planning priorities are embedded in the department annual performance plan. So we looked at them in totality because they are sitting in the department. We were reminding the committee that they are not having a standalone annual performance plan, and they don't have a standalone between the DEETS and ALA. So we did look at their priorities, but you're not going to have their APP on their own. And that is not from the Auditor-General. That is how the department is structured, that the DEETS and ALA's priorities, objectives, indicators and targets are included and incorporated in the departmental APP. And therefore, the AGSA had looked at it from that perspective. So it's not us not have looked at it. But there is no audit opinion on financial reporting, as I indicated. The audit of the Auditor-General had not been completed. The annual report has not been tabled. I thought maybe let me just highlight there. On Ngwenyama, Honorable Chair, just to clarify to the members, we are indicating that if you look at PFMA, it did not incorporate the trust. But we looked at the ITB because the performance planning of Ngwenyama, they put it in the board, in the Ngwenyama Trust Board, as opposed to be sitting in the trust. So we looked at that particular element. But so the financial reporting of Ngwenyama, both the trust and the board, they are looked at by the Auditor-General. We've always done it, and we continue to do so in the current year. So when we come in October, as part of the BRRR, where we are providing the members with feedback on the performance deliverables reporting of the department, and as well as the financial reporting of the department, you would see that we'll have the AG will have an opinion on Ngwenyama and both the trust and the board. So that will have in line with what we've always done over the years. Chair, you'll remember that the Treasury is the entity that determines the financial regulation reporting and parameters of the entities in the country. So the AGSA audit based on those parameters, meaning if there is an act that demands that Ngwenyama Trust Board, as an example, have an annual performance plan and annual performance reporting, then the AGSA work would then make sure that we express an opinion. So if you look at the work that we've brought to the committee over the years, you would see that we'll always have an opinion for all entities that we are having here. I just thought maybe let me clarify that particular element so that I can settle the members' worries around why would the AGSA not look at significant entities that contribute to the delivery of the mandate? We definitely look at it in the opinion. In fact, for the audit opinion, you would see that there will be an audit opinion for DEETS, there will be an audit opinion for ALA, there will be audit opinion for both the board and Ngwenyama Trust as well. So there was a question, I think, from Honorable Mteto that was very important, that speaks to the is the committee meant to, rubber stamp what is coming through? Because the monitoring mechanism, so the reporting mechanism must be stress test with what's sitting in the ground. I think that's what I got it, and that's important. When the AGSA do the work, so when we do the audit, for which we are yet to express an opinion, we had not expressed an opinion on any entity actually of the Public Finance Management Act in the country for the financial year as yet. We had not done so. The first audit opinions will be issued on the 31st of July. When we do that work, we definitely look at the evidence that they're giving us. But I'm understanding that there is a call that says, shouldn't we look at the impact, meaning the people on the ground in terms of what they're getting, even as this committee. When we're bringing the messages from the AGSA like we are doing now, let's talk about the APP, Honorable Chair, that we are coming to the committee. We are basically coming ahead of the department before they come engage the members on what is it that they want to be doing. And our understanding and expectation would be that when the department does come, then the members would be determining whether they are comfortable with the priorities that the department is embedding. As I indicated, the AGSA look at the crafting of the APP. We look at whether it complies with the framework on performance reporting and performance planning. But the AGSA does not dictate which priorities that the Parliament as well as the department choose to make, right? So which means that the portfolio committee then is at liberty when the department comes. In fact, that's what normally happens, that the portfolio committee will then say, I'm actually not so pleased with where you are prioritizing the money. I would rather have it somewhere else. And that's what also is embedded in the money bill in terms of the role of the committee when the department comes. I do not necessarily expect that it will be a rubber stamping. We're hoping as the AGSA that it does not become rubber stamping, but rather the members get comfortable that which the department is prioritizing is aligned to what the members would like to see. There was a question as well that speaks to AG, can you have a mechanism to prevent them from mismanagement? If you look at how the AGSA is embedded in the Constitution in the Chapter 9, the AGSA is an external auditor, which means that the National Treasury is the main entity that deals with the proactive prevention of mismanagement in terms of the prescripts and the elements of the standards that are put in place to be implemented by the department. If you look at the Treasury regulations in particular, there are different sections. In the section on financial management, there is a part that particularly speaks to the accounting officer responsibility in terms of risk management, risk response, as well as asset and safeguarding, which speaks to how you safeguard the monies, the resources of the department. The role of AGSA is that of an external auditor. We would come and we will audit and we will give you feedback on whether they had spent money where they needed to spend. We do not have any authority to approve nor disapprove the activities of the department. Neither do we have any authority to actually prevent the accounting officer from doing a certain activity. What we have with the Public Audit Act and the material irregularity is where the accounting officer had actually incurred a loss. This speaks to the value for money. If they incur a loss, meaning you overpaid the services that you received, then the Auditor-General can issue a material irregularity. But again, the material irregularity comes as an activity afterwards. The accounting officer, in line with the Public Finance Management Act, has got the full authority to be spending in the department, but they must spend in line with the Act and responsibly. If there is an instance where we believe that there is an instance of the accounting officer not spending in line with the Public Finance Management Act, that is where those charged with governance come into the picture. That will be the minister. That will be the National Treasury. That will be the Audit Committee of
Honorable
the department.
members,
Sort of the AGA plays into and the closure. Thank you so much.
You are cutting, madam. I don't know what actually has happened because you were coming through so nicely, but now, yeah.
All right.
Hello.
Can you hear
may
me?
continue. Yeah. You may continue.
I'm not sure where I was, but maybe let me pause there. The key things I wanted to highlight to the members was the fact that what you are sitting with right now, it is not the financial reporting feedback of the AGSA. That we are still busy with. And therefore, you do not have the audit opinion on financial management. You neither not having a feedback on the performance reporting of the department. That only happens post the 30 for consideration, and the members. Chair, you can hear me.
Yeah, you cutting AG. I don't know why, but all along, I think you came out very clearly. I'm sure members actually did get your message through.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe let me leave it there. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much, honorable members.
Chair.
I wonder if there are some follow-up questions that you would like to make.
Chair, my hand is up.
Is it Honorable Matikizela?
Yes.
Honorable Matikizela, I recognize Nyambose again. Who else is there? Who else would like to actually have the second bite?
Me, Chair.
Okay.
Adams.
Oh, Adams, okay. All right. Can you start, Honorable Matikizela?
No, Chair, I do want to assure Ms. Gomape that we are very much aware of what is being presented here today. There must be no misunderstanding. The report is self-explanatory. The question that we're asking it in general, not in relation to what is presented here today, particularly the issue of the portfolio of evidence, where, for example, a municipality would get a clean audit, but people do not have water. So that example was a question that I was asking in general, not in reference to what was presented. That is why I prefaced my contribution by saying that there's a lot of discussion we need to have with the department after they have given us heads up on what is contained in the APP and the medium-term strategic plan. And also the last point for me, Chair, so that we are clear, I wanted to also get the views of Ms. Komape in terms of the APP that we are talking about, because it is my view that the horse has bolted. We can only have an opportunity to make any changes, during the medium-term budget policy statement on that APP, if it has been indeed submitted. So I thought, in terms of understanding what is happening in the process to deal with the issues that have been raised, I mean, my views were on those two areas. So let me stop here.
Well, thank you, Honorable Matikizela, for that clarity. Honorable Mtetwa?
Yes, thanks, Chair. Now, I just wanted to say it's a pity that auditing as a function, it's like you are auditing finances, probably control measures on matters of finance. Mine is actually about the law. I am looking forward to a situation where auditing as a function can extend to laws regulating the space which they are auditing, because there is a gray area where they only conduct auditing as a matter of a legislative prerequisite, which means it's like a given in a mathematical equation, they need to audit. But I find limitations and impediments are on laws that governs the sectors that they are auditing, which in those sectors, I see a lot of escapism clauses, which those clauses allow then corruptible practices to exist by virtue of laws being in place. And this is where the gray area is. So I am like recommending a situation whereby when you sit down and do your auditing as a function where you are being regulated, which means the regulatory body of auditing, I would like to see us also doing laws and audit the laws and see if the laws are fulfilling the function which is aimed at doing auditing, because you can do the financials, but the laws prevents you. Also, the enforceability of what you would have found as findings of auditing rest with other agencies which may have lesser impetus in what you have found as wrong that should be punishable, but because you are not the one who does the punishing, then it is deferred to a next person which may not carry the same weight that you would have discovered. So I want to see us beefing up auditing to the point of even issuing punishment, but not outside your scope, because I can't imagine a police being effective in doing a punishable offense in the financial sector, which they may not be beefed up as you are in the auditing as an institution. So that's the gray area I'm finding. No wonder that we are sitting on the ground with a totally different picture, where auditing is not linked to service delivery, but auditing is linked to their preconceived templates that they are using. That's why we are sitting with an egg on our face. I'm looking forward to a situation whereby we audit all the transactions that have happened in the exchanging of funds for money. There, I always see those that have been paid by the department, they laugh their way to the bank, but the repercussions of those transactions are not enjoyable and enjoyed by those that we were saying we are doing land reform and restoration too. They are always crying, and then I find it odd. How do we then say we've audited? When auditing is more like a pacifying function to say we've done the formality of auditing. So it allows us to be granted money again because we were found to be in good books. But I'm imagining that people are able now to trick the auditing process because it's preemptible. You can see it by observation to say these are things that they will be looking for, and they make sure that they present you with the facts in line with your scope, and then you find that you are getting an egg on your face because it's not exactly what we are looking for on the ground. But thank you, sir.
Well, thank you, Honorable Teto. Honorable Adams.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. It's just one question that I forgot to ask. And the question is as follows. Lack of robust quality control is also highlighted with respect to the Inkonyama Trust Board. What interventions can be put in place to improve the equality assurance measures within the board? In other words, what is the remedial action to turn the situation around in the short to medium term? I thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you, Honorable Adams. Honorable Mkhaga.
No, Chair. Just a short question from my side. No, Chair, I hear, and it's good that Madam has clarified their approach as far as this presentation is concerned. It's good because some of us would assume that we'll be dealing with the actual audit, and necessarily the question of the scope becomes important. So it's good that she has clarified ourselves. But she's here to equip us so that we are ready by the time we're dealing with the audit. And that must be appreciated. Chair, I raised this fact that maybe as we go preparing for our strat plan, you invite them so that these questions of limitation and other matters that frustrate us are raised in that particular session so that we're able to dig deeper on the matter, because ours is not just to listen, but is to ensure that we change the situation. And I'm not sure whether they are always available for such invitation. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. And thank you very much for your inputs. I will then hand over to the Auditor General's office, Ms. Komapi, if they still want to clarify certain points that that might have actually been raised. Over to you, Ms. Komapi.
Thank you, Chair. Please indicate the moment I start to fade away. I try to reconnect again. I'm hoping I'm audible. May I continue?
Very clear, very clearly. You may continue.
In fact, I wanted to appreciate a suggestion by Honorable Mkhaha. If it meets the chair and the committee's approval, it will be great and beneficial for us to actually attend to your strategic session, because then we'll have ample time to indicate the work that we do, the parameters and the limitations that we are sitting with. I guess, Chair, we will hear from you. I think there was a question around, are we always available? We make ourselves available. As we are sitting right now, I'm actually believing that session would benefit the members quite strongly, because you'll have an ample time to appreciate how we do the work and where we do it and what are the limitations of audit. And that will maybe speak to the question, the question from Honorable Mthethwa that speaks to the lawmaking so far as audit as a function is concerned. Because as it stands, the work of the Auditor General, let me speak to the department, right? The work of the Auditor General on external audit activities is regulated under Section 42 in particular, 40 subsection 2 of the PFMA. And when you read it, you'll be able to see that the Auditor General work would speak to the annual financial statements and the annual performance report. The question that remains relevant is what Honorable Madikizela spoke to, that actually provide even much more clarity. That says, why is it that at times, and this is in general terms, we are seeing a clean audit and is not necessarily correlating with the service delivery that is offered in that particular space, and that expand even on the municipalities. What normally causes that is that the APP or the annual performance plan in terms of municipalities will be the IDP and the SDPIP. You would see that the department set targets or the entities set targets for themselves that are easily achievable. And even when they achieve them, they will not necessarily cause an impact on the ground. Now, if you go to the framework on reporting that the AGSA is utilizing to perform an audit, it speaks to the transparent and reliable reporting. So which means that which I said for myself, I've done it. The question is, are you setting for yourself that which will change the trajectory of the communities? And that's why, Chair, at the beginning I was saying, that's an element that the AGSA can dictate. We have no law that supports us to dictate to the department. We can suggest to them indirectly, but the committee have got the full authority to deal with it on that element, right? So part of the reason why we insist that the APP be unambiguous is so that the committee and the citizens can see that these targets that are being set, even if they were to be achieved, not all the key challenges within the portfolio will be attended to. And if we approve that APP, either from ministerial level or we approve it as parliament or as government in totality, we are not going to change the trajectory of the societies that depend on that particular portfolio. So that is the work that would sit with from the minister to parliament committees and government in totality. The AGSA role is to make sure that nobody is reporting ambiguously and hide behind the paperwork that is sitting there instead of spelling out what they're supposed to be doing. So what we are asking normally from both the minister and the committees to say, when you then decide to approve these APPs, can you kindly make sure that you are responding directly to the impact that the communities are required? So the mismatch normally between a clean audit, because clean audit in loose terms, in terms of the audit language, is actually unqualified with no matter. So what it means is that you had reported reliably, you had reported transparently. It is not supposed to be the end. It's supposed to be the beginning. Now that you reported transparently and reliably, are you reporting on the things that I want you to report on? The same goes for the APP, Chair, that we're supposed to be saying, this APP, now that is not ambiguous, now that you're clear on what you want to do, am I happy with what you actually want to be doing? And that's where the portfolio committee comes into the picture, and government leadership in totality. The role of the AGSA is to promote transparent planning and transparent reporting. But maybe, Chair, I'm tempted to pause. I did get a question from Honorable Adams that speaks to Ngwenyama. Again, it speaks to the delivery of what would have transpired. What we saw in Ngwenyama in terms of the APP is the errors that were coming through in the preparation of the APP, that we were saying they need quality assurance processes so that you don't rely on the Auditor General consistently to pick up the errors in your own APP. And those errors for us are the ones that makes it easy for the department and its entities to then report and seem like they are performing. Meanwhile, the areas that they are speaking to is not necessarily clear to facilitate proper engagements and again facilitate the service delivery that we are looking for. So I'm tempted, Chair, to pause here. But may I just provide a confirmation of our availability in advance of the invitation that we may receive so that we engage further on these areas? Thank you so much.
Thank you, the Office of the Auditor General. May I upfront actually officially issue an invitation, because this seems to be the consensus of the committee, that you actually be part of our strat plan exercise that we are still planning to have during the second term, the second quarter of our, of our operations. So if that is agreeable to you, then we'll definitely get the formal invitation, because that will assist us. Honorable members, our main preoccupation as this committee is actually to see the APPs of the department actually impacting on the acceleration of land reform in this country that should actually ultimately have a visible impact on the lives of our people. That is our major issue. And secondly, we would like to see these APPs actually impacting on the rural development programs. That is also the mandate of this department, because we are still talking very much about the issue of land reform and very little about rural development. We haven't even unpacked that to actually understand exactly what does it mean in the context of the mandate of this department. We also are sitting with serious budget cuts, and we still need to actually look at the plans, the objectives of the department in relation to the reality of the budget. That is actually also a major issue that is confronting us. On that note, I really do want to also underscore our appreciation for your coming here and also your unpacking of some of the APPs and issues that are in the manner in which you have done. It actually has assisted us going forward to actually be able to interrogate them and see whether they will indeed have any desired impact on the general and the overall land reform programs. Thank you very much, Auditor General.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. You may be excused. Honorable members, the second issue is about our report, oversight report to KwaZulu-Natal, which was actually, honorable members will remember that this report was presented at some point and we discussed it and we made some inputs and made suggestions and for changes to be made in certain parts of the report, and those changes were actually have actually been made, and I don't think that there is any need now to actually go all over again discussing the report because it has been circulated and it was initially presented and we discussed it. So now it's just to confirm the report with the amendments that we had suggested. So I will then also recognize the hands, if there are any, from honorable members in relation to the oversight report to KwaZulu-Natal. Yes, Honorable Adams.
Thank you, Chairperson, and sorry for disrupting you, but I think it will be proper for us just to flag the report so that we can scroll through it and then we can adopt it.
Okay. Well, there is a suggestion made by Honorable Adams that the report actually be put on the screen and scroll it through so that ultimately members can be comfortable to adopt it.
But only recommendations, not the entire report.
Okay. So, okay. Okay, thank you. Honorable Doc, there is the report, the recommendations. Let me see if I can actually. Honorable members, okay, let's look at the recommendations. I wonder if we want to go through the recommendations seriatim one by one, or we have actually read the recommendations, then I will recognize hands. If
Chair?
Yes.
I still strongly believe, Chair, that the issue of Ingonyama transport cannot be a permanent solution to what we are dealing with there. And that is why I want to recommend that perhaps 9.1 should read as follows. We must expedite the process to transfer the land to its rightful owners so that we can have better mechanisms to manage it instead of relying on the board. That's just my view.
Well, there is the view of Honorable Matigizela. Can we interrogate it? Can we make some comments on that?
Yeah, Chair.
Honorable Mkhaga.
Yeah, it's a highly debatable issue what Honorable Matikizela is raising. I agree that we would need better mechanism to reinforce or better manage that space. But I think for now, let's flag it as a debatable matter than to simply recommend without necessarily engage. Let's engage on it, but not in this report. Let's leave it. I would recommend that we take this recommendation as disclosed as is, but flag the matter that he's raising towards it's a serious matter for discussion. Thanks, Chair.
Well, thank you, Honorable Mkhakha. What are the views of the other members in relation to the contributions that have been made by the two colleagues? In that, Honorable Mkhakha feels that we should actually leave the recommendation as such, but flag the issue that Honorable Matikizela is raising as a matter that would actually require a serious, consideration and serious debate on. Honorable members.
Chairperson, if I may.
Yeah.
Yes, this issue is in actual fact a very complicated issue. And I want to agree that even if we make that recommendation, it will have to go through a process of thorough scrutiny and consultation. Sorry, I was now looking for the word. So I want to agree with Honorable Mkhakha that we accept the recommendation as it's, but that we also begin to really look into a process that will be able to bring us to a solution of this issue, because it was very clear. I just to elaborate further, maybe it was very clear that it will take a considerable effort to make sure that the sole trustee and those that is delegated, or what I don't know whether it's delegated, but those that are responsible to actually execute the action, there is a need to actually bring them at the same level where they are, where there is a level of understanding. But we can't continue to change and chop and change without really dealing with the root cause of the issues. So that is why I'm saying I want to agree with the Honorable Mkhakha, so that we just for now handle it the way he has proposed. Thank you.
I'm
Well,
fine,
thank
Chair.
you.
I'm fine, Chair,
thank
with
you.
that recommendation.
Well, thanks a lot, honorable members. Thank you for that consensus. So we leave the recommendation as is, but going forward, I think if the space will be found where the serious discussion about the whole question of the land tenure systems and so on will actually be debated, including the issue of the issue that Honorable Matikizela actually has raised, because it is important, but perhaps not for this report now. Thank you. Honorable Honor, I recognize the hand of our content advisor.
Thanks, Chair. Good morning, members. I should have lowered it down after members have agreed, because initially I was going to say it seems to me that it's a different recommendation about the minister dealing with the communal. I think that's what Chairperson is saying, dealing with the communal land tenure issue by bringing a policy on communal land tenure and finalizing communal land tenure bill, which addresses the entire country. But I withdraw and say I agree with the committee that we can leave it, but we make it a subject for discussion at another time, so that the committee thoroughly debate this matter. Because to put it like this here now, it has huge implications for that in fact you have to repeal the legislation, because then that legislation gives ownership to the trust. Now, when you transfer, it means that you're doing away with the trust. So I agree with members. Apologies that I left my hand up. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, maybe Doc, you could actually also take us through to the next recommendation. I think it's gonna be quicker that way, because we are really getting, pressed for time now.
Sure. So thanks, Chair. So the 9.2, there it is. It's about ministers' oversight, because members found it, that it could have been better. I think here members didn't have an issue. When I looked at my notes, these were great. The main point was around these. That's where we included legislation particularly, but yeah. So 9.2, it's about oversight and providing support to the entity. And we proposed here that there must be an analysis of the status of the organization and operations. And when that is completed, the minister should report. So 9.3, it's a review of legislation as it has been called upon by different stakeholders, which members didn't have an issue with. 9.4, forensic investigation into the finances of the trust for that period. Also making sure that all transactions are accounted for, that there is accountability where there is unlawful activities. The committee calls for, the engagement between the Provincial House of Traditional Leaders and the ITB. It seemed as if there were issues there. That can be facilitated by the minister. That's what the committee recommended. Okay, so the court order on the CASAC matter. So that is the resolution. Members didn't have an issue with this. So I take it that 9 points, just these first recommendations about ITB, they are okay as they are. Should I proceed?
Yes, please.
The CPAs, it's a big issue. There was the human resources, but that members didn't have an issue. Where they raised a point, it was about the monitoring of CPAs, their operation, their capabilities to comply. And we included an assessment of all CPAs. Members spoke about some kind of a study, and we put it as assessment here. The members also raised a question about, let's see where we put it. Yes, that's this one. The number 9.10, members raised a point around assessing the contracts and agreements between strategic partners and mentors, and also assess the extent to which they are being implemented. The foremost important thing there was capacity building programs run by strategic partners and mentors, and how they are empowering land reform beneficiaries. So that assessment will be able to tell the state of affairs there. Members didn't have an issue with Zolabantu CPA matter, and also the criminal and civil cases. Members agreed on that. In fact, there were no other issues. We haven't changed anything on the farmer production support. The main issue that was raised there was about the water challenges and infrastructure. And you remember that we were informed that the Department of Water Affairs have sort of started this water board. And we hope that that will begin to resolve some of this issue. But that department, the Department of Agriculture, working through that entity called ADA, the recommendation was that they must address the water challenge. So those were the recommendations. Thank you, Chair.
Well, thank you, Dr. Manense. Honorable members, so there we are with our report recommendations in particular, because that was where our focal point was even at, when the report was initially, considered. That's where we actually made some amendments, made proposal for some amendments. I wonder if there is any member that would still want to see some, to make some additions or subtractions to the recommendations, or a member that would propose the adoption of this report so that it can actually proceed to go through the processes that will finally see it Parliament. Honorable members.
I adopt the report, Chair. It's Bongosi Matikizela.
Honorable Bongosi Matikizela has proposed the adoption of the report. Any seconder?
Yes, Chair, I second.
Yes.
Honorable Adams and seconds the proposal to adopt this report. That being so, honorable members, I am mindful of the fact that buses will then start ferrying members to the venue of the sitting at 12 o'clock. So it is only fair that we should actually stop our meeting now. And we were supposed to actually have looked at the minutes of our previous meetings, but now I'm sure time is actually not on our side. We can still be able to look at these excuse me, those minutes at some other time. That being said, I want to declare that the meeting has adjourned.
Thank you, Chips.
Thank you, honorable members, for your input. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your availability on the platform.
Thank
So
you.
buses are coming to bring you up here. Don't
Recording
worry.
stopped. Chair and members,
Thank
goodbye.
you so much,
Thank you,
honorable members.
Chairperson.
Thank
Our
you. Thank
members.
you.
Thank you, colleagues.
Cynthia, Cynthia, you don't
See you
mark
at
me absent. I
ICC.
tried to reconnect.
Thank you, honorable.
Cynthia, you don't mark me absent. I tried to reconnect.
No, Tata, you were present. You
Okay,
connected.
sure.
Yes, thanks.
No, thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks, Cynthia. Bye.
Thank you, honorable members.
So were you recording?
Doc, Cynthia be recorder.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Alo igqityiwe le nto ndithi ndibheke bathroom ndiyaphuma i-recommendation.
Mamelang, it's still streaming, so